With the likelihood of NATO being pulled into a war between Russia and Ukraine increasing, the possibility for a nuclear incident has never been higher. Getting the supplies to prepare for such an event is of prime importance. In my last video, I talked about the shortage of vital medications that would be required to mitigate radiation sickness. In today's video, we talk about a lesser known solution that everyone should have at their disposal. Links will be provided in the description, so let's get to it.
Hi, Joe Alton, MD here, also known as Dr. Bones of the survival medicine website doomandbloom.net. Also the co-author of the Survival Medicine Handbook, now in its 4th edition. Given the present conflict in Europe and the possibility of others in our unstable world, it's time to take seriously the risk of a nuclear confrontation in the uncertain future. I've discussed one of the medical issues associated with nuclear events recently on this channel, and that is radiation exposure. I explained the units used to describe it, the effects of various doses, dosimeters, and how to gain protection by building a shelter using various materials. If you haven't yet seen it, check it out. In the video, I mentioned the use of potassium iodide, or Ki, known by brand names such as Thyrosafe, Iosat, and various supplements, to counteract the effects of a common fallout component known as radioactive iodine, or I-131. It's the lightest radioactive contaminant and can affect people and food sources hundreds if not thousands of miles away from ground zero. In the conflict in Ukraine, the Russian leaders recklessly played the "I've got nukes" card and even attacked nuclear energy plants. This is occurring in the same general area as the Chernobyl meltdown of 1986, still a site of elevated radiation levels today. The nuclear energy plant recently attacked is at least 6 times the size of the Chernobyl facility. A meltdown there, or in any of the other 14 nuclear plants inside Ukraine, would be a major catastrophe. The end result of a significant exposure to radiation and radioactive iodine is thyroid cancer, often years after the original exposure. In the case of Chernobyl, thousands of cases of thyroid cancer have been recorded, mostly in those who were less than 18 years of age at the time of the event. To prevent this from happening, we recommend potassium iodide tablets. How does potassium iodide protect against thyroid cancer? Imagine your thyroid is a parking lot and the organ's receptors are parking spaces. When you're exposed to radioactive iodine, it takes up the parking spaces and once there, irradiates the gland, leading to cancer down the road. Taking non-radioactive potassium iodide, or iodate, fills the parking spaces, preventing the radioactive iodine from occupying them and causing damage. So having potassium iodide or iodate tablets on hand is a good idea. The current crisis, however, has led to a run on all forms of potassium iodide in both Europe and across the pond. Our own store ran out of potassium iodide within 2 days, and it seems there are few, if any, other sources selling it commercially. If they exist, they're selling it at outrageous prices. So let's say you don't have potassium iodide tablets. What are some other options? One is Lugol solution, also known as strong iodine solution. Lugol is a liquid combination of potassium iodide and iodine, first formulated in the year 1829 by, well, you guessed it, Dr. Jean Lugol. Lugol solution is used for various purposes. Matter of fact, decades ago I used it as a stain to identify possible cervical cancers. It can be used as an antiseptic on small wounds and even, in very small quantities, to disinfect questionable water. It can also protect the thyroid from radiation injury. Lugol is most commonly available as a 2% solution. Each drop of that concentration contains approximately 2.5 to 3 milligrams of iodine. 20 drops equals a milliliter, therefore 1 milliliter of 2% Lugol equals about 65 milligrams, the same dose as a Thyrosafe tablet. 130 milligrams, 2 times 65, is the daily adult dose in a radiation event. So 2 milliliters orally should be sufficient to block radioactive iodine in those over 12 years of age and over 150 or so pounds, about 70 kilograms. For children over the age of 3 years, or adults less than 150 pounds, 1 milliliter or 65 milligrams should be sufficient as a daily dose. For small children over 1 month of age to 3 years, a half a milliliter or 32 milligrams of iodine should be enough. For newborns, only a quarter milliliter or 16 milligrams of iodine. By the way, this product should be taken with a full glass of water or in fruit juice, milk, or even broth to improve the taste and lessen the chances of stomach upset. Be aware that radiation levels generally drop to about 10% of the original level in the first day, much more after that. This means you may only need one dose total to get adequate protection. The earlier you take it before or during an exposure, the more effect it has. In total, you should not take it for more than a few days or you can develop some pretty serious adverse reactions. Only take it until significant risk of exposure to radiation and radioactive iodine no longer exists. As mentioned in my previous video, time spent under shelter and increased distance from ground zero are your friends when it comes to radiation. If you can't find Lugol's 2% solution, you might consider a controversial but logical alternative, and that is the antiseptic called povidone iodine, brand name Betadine. Iodine is absorbed through intact skin and wounds, and according to the Stritch School of Medicine at Loyola University, Betadine solution used on the skin can contain enough iodine to help prevent thyroid uptake of radioactive iodine. Don't drink Betadine, by the way. It should only be applied to skin. According to a 1989 study published in the journal Health Physics by researchers from Hershey Medical Center, an adult could get a blocking dose of stable iodine by painting 8 milliliters of a 2% tincture of iodine on the abdomen or forearm about 2 hours prior to contamination with radioactive iodine. The study suggests that, in the absence of potassium iodine tablets, most humans would indeed benefit from topical application of tincture of iodine. 10% povidone iodine solution contains about 1% available iodine, so use double the amount, and as is absorbed more slowly by soft tissues, apply as early as possible once a radiation event is imminent. For adults, you would paint 8 milliliters of a 2% tincture of iodine, or double that of 1%, starting at least 2 hours prior to initial exposure. Now, if you're lucky, the authorities will warn you when an event is imminent. For children 3 to 18 but under 150 pounds, paint 4 milliliters of 2% iodine, double that if you have 1%. For children under 3 but older than a month, 2 milliliters of 2% is enough. For newborns up to 1 month old, half again, or just 1 milliliter. Newborns normally receive, by the way, only a single dose total. Again, stop once there is no longer a significant risk of radiation exposure. It's important to know that absorption through the skin is not as exact a dosing method as using tablets, but still should be effective for most. Also, be sure to first wash away any external contaminants on exposed skin with soap and water before application. And if a nuclear event has already occurred, perform skin decontamination and discard fallout exposed clothing. Some people have asked about iodine crystals, but it appears they vary in composition, so I can't say much about them. One thing I can say is that iodized table salt and foods rich in iodine do not contain enough iodine to block radioactive iodine and are not a substitute for Ki. I have to mention that potassium iodide only protects against thyroid cancer, not against any other cancer caused by radiation exposure. Cancers associated with high-dose gamma radiation exposure include leukemia, breast, bladder, colon, liver, lung, ovarian, and stomach. As those exposed as children or teens are most prone to thyroid cancer, treat them with Ki first. There's no good housekeeping seal or FDA approval on any of the strategies that I mentioned here, so do your own research and make your own conclusions. But as survival medic, you must do what you can with what you have, where you are. This is Joe Alton, MD, that old Dr. Bones, wishing you the best of health in good times or bad. Thanks for watching.
The best way to support this channel is to support yourself by gearing up at CanadianPreparedness.com, where you'll find high-quality survival gear at the best prices, no junk, and no gimmicks. Use discount code PREPPINGGEAR for 10% off. Don't forget, the strong survive, but the prepared thrive. Stay safe.